Hey there, do you love to read middle grade books, or are you looking for some great middle grade books to share with the kids in your life? I found a great activity to join in. It is a readathon called Middle Grade March. I would love to hear in the comments below, what is your favorite middle grade book to read or that you've ever read? So Middle Grade March was started by these booktubers a few years ago. I think they've been doing it for 6 years now. It's hosted by Books and Jams, The Curly Reader, Life Between Words, and Jenna Reads and Writes. And so these booktubers just get on and they are excited to share recommendations about books. And all month long, they're encouraging people to read middle grade books, regardless of your age. It doesn't matter how many you read. If you just read one middle grade book, you're part of Middle Grade March. And they have different lives that they do on Instagram and on their YouTube channels. And so I think this is a really fun thing to join in, where you can pick any middle grade book. I think there's one out there for you. So they have 5 prompts, and then they also have a group read that they do. So the group read is called A Rover Story, and it looks like a lot of fun. I'm excited to read this along with them. And then there's going to be a book chat all about the book. So it's like a fun big book group. And then there's also these 5 prompts where you pick a book based on one of these 5 things. So the first one is an award winner, but not a Newbery, because Newbery is one of the most common award-winning books that a lot of people know about. And so really, if you go out there and there's a book that you've been wanting to read, it might be an award winner, right? That's what I totally did. I have been wanting to read The Girl Who Circumvented Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making, and it keeps coming up available finally on Libby for me, and then I'm not ready to read it. So I finally got the hard copy because I'm like, I'm ready to read this and I can't wait. And it did win an award, so it works for me for that prompt. The next prompt is a sci-fi or dystopian book. This is totally my jam. I love dystopian, but a lot of the dystopian books that I read, I feel like are more, young adult because of some of the content. And so I went with sci-fi. Margaret Peterson Haddix is one of my very favorite authors. And so this is one of her books I haven't read yet. I believe it came out last year. It's called The School for Whatnots. I'm so excited to get into it. It does say it's kind of a thriller sci-fi one. Can't wait. That's all I know about it. And I love going into a book pretty blind. The next prompt is just to have the sky or sea on the cover. And that is so easy. This is one somebody recommended to me on a Facebook group I'm in. Don't really know a lot about it, but it does sure sound interesting. The world's greatest chocolate covered pork chops. Ridiculous, but looks like a lot of fun, right? I mean, look at the cover. Don't base a book on a cover, but sometimes do. It might get you read. And then the next prompt is a book with a neurodiverse character. So my son had been reading this, and then he asked me to start reading it aloud to him. It is A Boy Called Bat. And it's a lot of fun, but I missed the beginning and I'm only partway through it and we haven't really been very consistent with it. So I'm going to start at the beginning and really get into this one. I think the character has autism just from reading partway through. I don't know if it ever really says it, but just based on my knowing autistics in my family and how they act, that I'm pretty sure. And even if he doesn't have autism, he seems like he's probably neurodiverse. I guess I'll discover it as I go along going through this. If you don't know what neurodiverse means, it's just a different way of thinking. So there's neurotypical people that just think like, I don't know, whatever's typical. I hate using words like what's normal. But then neurodiverse is their mind works differently, okay? So then the last prompt is a book published within the last year. This is so easy, and I had a huge list. Another one that I'm going in pretty blind that came up when I was getting on to look at who the author of Amari and the Night Brothers is, and it recommended other books that I might like, and I was like, oh, that looks cool. The Marvelers. Don't know anything about it, but it came out in the last year and it looks fun, and I just love reading books not knowing anything about them. I'm willing to put a book down if I don't like it after 50, 100 pages or something like that though. So I'm so excited to read some of these books. Some other ones I want to dive into. This one I could use for Sky and Sea. I recently read one by Alan Gratz and I loved it, and I also recently read a book about a refugee, and so this one is called Refugee, and I'm really excited to dive into this one. And then this one is a really popular book, Crossover. It's written in verse, and there's a series coming out on Disney Plus, and then there's also a graphic novel version of it. So I've been meaning to get to this one. And then Brandon Mull's next book in the Candy Shop War series is coming out, the final book. It's a 3-part series that it's been coming out over years. You know, there were a few years between each because he initially intended it to be a standalone, and I can't wait to read that one. I think I'll read it aloud to my kids because my kids love the series too. And then there's one more that I really want to read. It's one when I was looking for neurodiverse characters. I saw on another booktuber's channel that she recommended The Day the World Stopped Turning. I don't remember who it was, but I'll go find out and I'll list it here in the description below, as well as all the links so you can go follow along the different hosts. And our hosts have Middle Grade March merch. So share with me in the comments below, what book do you plan to read for Middle Grade March? And then keep coming back and getting more book recommendations for the kids in your life. Subscribe to the channel and like this video. Bye.